Hi guys, in this tutorial we'll see how to pass value from child to the parent component. So in the previous tutorial we've seen how to pass the value from the parent to the child using an input property. So now we'll see how to pass value from child back to the parent using an output property. So basically the child component exposes an event emitter property with which it emits events when something happens. And the parent binds to that event property and reacts to those events. So the event emitter is nothing but the output property. So we'll see how to implement it. So you can see in this example we have a parent component and a child component, and the value is passed from the parent to the child using an input property. So let's see the code. In the child component we have an input property named as child name, and we are just displaying it here. You can see here. And in the parent component we are hosting the child component, and whatever value we are selecting, it is passed to the child component using that input property, child name, this one. So let's begin with how to pass value from child back to the parent. So in the child component, the first step will be to import the event emitter and the output from the Angular core. Also in the child component, we'll create an output property named as output to parent, and that is nothing but we are creating an instance of an event emitter of type string. So as I said, event emitter is nothing but it's an output property used by the child component to pass the value, that is to emit the value to the parent. So in my case I am keeping the data type as string. So let's create a button which will pass value back to the parent. So this is the button, and there is a function name as notification to parent, and we are passing this input property name here, and whenever this button is clicked we'll call this function. So this notification to parent is the function in which we are going to set the output property and then emit our value to the parent. So you can see we are calling our output property and we are emitting the value of the parameter passed through this function here. So this is the button. On the click of button we are sending whatever value is there in the input property in this function, and the output property is just emitting this value, that is throwing this value to the parent. Now we have to write some kind of handler in the parent component which will listen to this output parameter. So let's go to the parent component. Okay, we'll create a variable named as child current value. We'll create a function which will act as a listener. Let's name it get output val, and in this function we will set this variable name. So we have created this function which will be setting the child current value, this variable, that the value received from child is this. Now we have to bind this on the click of the button. So as you can see, this is the child component which we have hosted. So you can see here we have binded the output property of the child here to our child component, and whenever the output to parent output property is set in the child component, this custom property of parent will be called automatically. So in other words, whenever I am setting the output property in the child component, this value will be emitted and will be listened to custom function which we have created in our parent component. So you can see in the child component this output property is set and whenever it is called set in the child component, this custom function will be called, that is this, and the value which is thrown from the child component here will be received here in this custom function. So let's see, let's run this. Okay, so now you can see I am passing the value from parent to child, and this is the button in the child component which is meant to pass value back to the parent. So when I click here, you can see here the value is sent to the parent. Again, when I pass the value, second value to the child, here you can see name is Robert. Now I will again send this same value back to the parent. When I click here, you can see here the name is changed to Robert. So this way you can interact with the parent component using the output property of the child. That's it guys. Thanks for watching. Kindly subscribe, like or share.